Battlefield 2042 Season 7 is just around the corner, and it's doing something that no other season has done before. It's kind of hiding a little bit of a secret. We've got a lot to get through in this video today, plenty to discuss for Season 7, including a jet that turns invisible, several new weapons, fully destructible environments on the new map, and even more, so let's get right into it. Drop a like if you're excited for Season 7, by the way, and subscribe to see my live stream gameplay of it very, very soon. Revealed in the Season 7 gameplay trailer the other day, Haven is our first map launching, which is set in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Now, some of you might remember a map called Atacama Desert from Battlefield Bad Company 2. And whilst this new map isn't a remaster or a rework of that old map, it is totally brand new. It's kind of following in the same sort of footsteps because it looks like we've got massive levels of destruction of different buildings. We've obviously got urban warfare here. There's vehicles everywhere and explosions and whatnot. It's combined arms. So the map features these door-to-door combat locations with tightly spaced buildings. And as I mentioned, lots of destruction. Most of the buildings look freestanding and all of the walls are being smashed through by various infantry soldiers wielding their RPGs and tank shells going everywhere. That's a surefire way to get a Battlefield fan excited. And according to the DICE team that worked on this map, they've drawn inspiration from older maps like Arica Harbor from Bad Company 2, Strike at Karkand, which I think was a Battlefield 2 map, and then they remastered it in Battlefield 3, and Amiens from Battlefield 1. Some of the best urban warfare maps that have ever been produced for the Battlefield franchise. So if that's anything to go by, I think we might have a good map here for Season 7. In terms of vehicle gameplay on this Haven map, you can expect tanks and helicopters as options. No jets here, thank goodness. The map doesn't look big enough to really be able to support jets. Plus, I think they'd have an absolute field day dropping bombs on infantry down below. Although we will talk about jets in a minute. I did mention there's an invisible jet in Season 7, so we'll get to that. But DICE wanted to make sure that the map was weighted more towards infantry combat with just like a sprinkling of vehicles in there to kind of spice up the gameplay. So if you're fighting in those door-to-door areas and an infantry soldier, at some point you might need to look into the sky to fire that RPG rather than hitting the wall in front of you to take down a little bird, for example. You might also want to use the brand new SRAW launcher to take out the chopper. Fans of Battlefield 4 and various other Battlefield games in the past will remember this launcher. It's one that once you fire it, it's laser guided, so it follows your aim as it flies into the distance. So if there's a vehicle that's flying away from you, like a little bird, you can line it up when you first fire it, but then if the little bird moves, you can move your aim, and then the rocket will move with you. And you just kind of have to figure out the distance and the speed of the projectile, and if you can get good at it, you can get some really cool shots with it. Personally, I don't think I'm going to be doing that because I find it far too difficult to line up those shots, and I'd much rather just fire off an RPG and see if I get lucky. But I think people using it on the larger open maps out there where vehicles kind of sit behind cover, you could kind of like fire it up in the air and then point down at the ground to get it behind a hill or something to hit a tank. More options is great. Next up, let's talk about the new weapons coming with Season 7. The first is, I think, one that Battlefield 4 veterans are going to recognize, the AK-5C. This was like a default launch weapon back in the Battlefield 4 days, and it was classed back then as a carbine, but here in 2042, it's sitting as an assault rifle. And according to DICE, this is kind of like a middle-of-the-road option with good balance between firepower and accuracy. It's going to help you take down enemies at close to mid-range. There's a new SMG, the SCZ-3, which I think is the Scorpion, and I immediately noticed there's a drum mag on this, so maybe we'll get like a 50-round option or something like that, which would be pretty cool. Probably going to be very popular on this new Haven map, where you're going to be getting up and close with many enemy players in close quarters gunfights. And then coming later in Season 7, I think it's part of the 7.2 update, we're getting the DFR Strife, which I think is a light machine gun, although according to DICE, you're going to be able to equip it with a standard stick magazine as well, which is making a sort of assault rifle LMG hybrid gun. And again, I can imagine that being very popular. It's going to have several different use cases where you can kind of flip between the belt-fed box mag and then a quicker magazine for reloading in close quarters. Really excited to give that one a go. And then earlier I did mention there's a new jet. It's called the XFAD-4 Draugr. Really weird name. I don't know why they have to be so long, but by the looks of it, it does turn invisible. You can see in the trailer right here, it disappears. So it's like a futuristic stealth bomber. And apparently it can drop EMP bombs on targets, and it's got a laser-guided missile. It looks kind of devastating in the trailer, and on those congested conquest points, I can imagine this thing is going to rack up plenty of skull icons on your screen when you go ahead and use it. It kind of reminds me of the huge Russian World War I bomber that DICE added to Battlefield 1 in terms of its impact, because that thing could drop so many bombs and just absolutely obliterate a conquest flag. Of course, it's nothing like that stealth bomber though, because I'm guessing that's much faster, and of course World War I bombers didn't go invisible. It is going to be interesting though to see how DICE balances the invisible stealth mode on the Draugr. Hopefully you're still going to be able to fire RPGs and such at it, but maybe those lock-on missiles won't work whilst it's in stealth mode. We don't really have any info, so we'll have to wait and see. And then we come on to this like sneaky secret part of Season 7, the second new map called Stadium. To my knowledge, this is the first time that DICE will be launching 2 new maps in a season. Previously, we've had 1 new map, and then a couple of reworks of the launch maps because, well, they weren't very good or very fun at all. And the reason I keep saying new like that is because the second new map isn't actually new at all, really. In Update 7.2, so it's coming in mid-season, the stadium location from the Hourglass map is returning, only this time it's only the stadium. So DICE has reworked the location, and they've turned it into this infantry-only battleground with just a few flag points hidden away inside like a maze of cover scattered across the dark hallways inside. Now, the stadium, I think, was actually a really good part of the Hourglass map when Battlefield 2042 launched, so it was always odd to me when DICE decided not to include it in the rework of Hourglass from a couple of seasons ago. But I guess now it does make sense if DICE already knew they were going to be reworking this Hourglass stadium location into its own map, that they didn't include it in the larger Hourglass rework. Outside, it doesn't really look like that much has changed, but I could be wrong. We're only seeing a very small portion of the map in the trailer, but it does seem to have a good amount of detail inside those corridors, and it's going to be pretty awesome for infantry fighting. Loads of explosions, loads of RPGs firing past your face. What more could you ask for? Now, I've seen quite a few different reactions to this second new map online. Plenty of people are happy that they're getting 2 maps in Season 7. Other people are a bit disappointed or annoyed that the second map is just a reuse of assets and a shuffle around of cover. And there's some people who wanted both maps to launch on day 1 rather than them being split between day 1 and mid-season. For me personally, I feel as though this new stadium map isn't new, because we've seen it all before on another map, and what DICE has actually done is just taken something that was already made and then reworked it into something that fits what players actually want, and they've done that with every single launch map for Battlefield 2042 already. So to me, it's just another rework in another season of Battlefield 2042. But despite me thinking it's not new, I do actually think it's good that they've brought this back, because it's another option for players. And let's face it, these days, updates are just all about content. If there isn't enough content, people will just complain and they will say that they want more. So DICE is delivering more content in terms of maps in Season 7, even if one of the maps, in my opinion, is not new. There will be a new battle pass for Season 7. It's full of cosmetic items, so plenty to unlock and work towards if you're so inclined. I still think Battlefield has a long way to go when it comes to figuring out monetization options for funding a live service, because, to be honest, I only really care about weapon skin cosmetics. I could care a lot less about operator skins, because I literally can't see the one that I've chosen to wear unless I'm looking at the arms of my character, which most of the time I'm not. I'm looking at the middle of my screen anyway, or I could look down at the soldier's feet as well, I guess, so you could see it that way. But 99% of the time, you're not seeing the operator's outfit. You're just looking at everyone else's operator outfit, and I guess that's kind of what DICE are going for. But realistically, all I care about is the weapon cosmetics, and I think there could be quite a lot more of those in this game. And I guess it doesn't help that Battlefield 2042 didn't do very well at launch, but seemed to be absolutely stacked with cosmetics when the game did launch, so I really think DICE just completely misjudged what Battlefield players actually care about, and that is mainly new maps, new weapons, new attachments, and new proper gameplay items to use. Vehicles as well. The cosmetic side of things and the funding of the live service, microtransactions, whatever you want to call it, I think DICE and EA have got a lot of work to do to figure out what they're going to do for the next Battlefield game, because what they have here, I just don't think most Battlefield players really care about half of these cosmetics. So, Season 7 is shaping up quite nicely. 2 maps, new weapons, and a couple of other items as well. DICE hasn't said if this is the last season or not for Battlefield 2042. We are still a long way away from the launch of the next Battlefield title, so I'm hoping that this isn't the last proper season that we see. But I guess right now, DICE is just kind of taking it season by season, and I'm sure at some point, somebody high up is going to draw a line, and that'll be it. But stay tuned to the channel, because very soon I will be live streaming Season 7 and making videos once it launches on March 19th. Thank you for watching, thank you for putting up with my raspy voice, and I'll catch you soon.